The November afternoon had turned bitterly cold by the time. Charlotte Hayes pushed open the door to Riverside Cafe, her baby daughter Emma bundled against her chest in a worn carrier. The warmth of the cafe enveloped them, along with the rich aroma of coffee and fresh bread that made Charlotte's empty stomach clench with longing. She'd walked 6 blocks in the cold, Emma fussing the entire way, because this cafe was the only place she knew that sold day-old bread at a discount. $2 for a small loaf. It was all she had left until her paycheck came in 3 days. Charlotte approached the counter, keeping her eyes down, acutely aware of how she must look. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her beige sweater had a small stain from where Emma had spit up that morning, and her olive skirt was starting to fray at the hem. She looked exactly like what she was, a struggling single mother barely keeping her head above water. "Hi," she said quietly to the young woman behind the counter. "Do you have any day-old bread? Just 1 slice if that's possible. I only have—" She pulled out a crumpled dollar, bill and some change from her pocket, counting it carefully. $1.23. The girl behind the counter looked sympathetic but uncertain. "We don't usually sell by the slice. Let me check with the manager." While Charlotte waited, Emma started to cry, that particular wail that meant she was hungry and tired and had reached the end of her patience. Charlotte bounced her gently, whispering soothing words, but Emma only cried harder. "Shh, baby, shh, I know you're hungry. Mama's gonna feed you as soon as we get home, I promise." Nearby diners glanced over, some with sympathy, others with annoyance. Charlotte felt her cheeks burn with shame. She shouldn't have come in. She should have found somewhere else, anywhere else. "Excuse me." The voice came from behind her, deep and kind. Charlotte turned to find a man standing from a nearby table. He was in his early 30s, wearing a charcoal blazer over a white shirt, with dark hair and hazel eyes that held genuine concern. He looked successful, comfortable, everything Charlotte wasn't. "I'm sorry," Charlotte said automatically. "We're leaving." "I'm sorry she's so loud." "That's not what I was going to say." The man's smile was gentle. "My name is David Morrison, and I couldn't help but overhear." He gestured to his table, where a half-eaten sandwich sat beside a laptop. "You look exhausted, and your daughter is clearly upset. Please, sit down at my table. Let me order you some real food, not just a slice of bread. You can feed your baby, rest for a moment, and eat something substantial." Charlotte stared at him, certain she'd misheard. I can't. I don't have money for—" "I'm not asking you to pay," David said firmly but kindly. "I'm offering to buy you lunch. No strings attached. You look like you need it, and honestly, I'd like to help if you'll let me." Charlotte felt tears prick her eyes. She wanted to refuse, wanted to preserve what little dignity she had left. But Emma was screaming now, and Charlotte was so hungry she felt dizzy, and this stranger was offering kindness when the world had been so cruel lately. "Why would you do that?" she whispered. "Because someone did the same for me once when I needed it," David said simply. "And because you're standing. They're trying to buy a single slice of bread while your baby cries, and that's not okay. So please, sit down. Eat first. We can figure out everything else later." Charlotte's resistance crumbled. She nodded, following David to his table. He held out a chair for her, and she sank into it gratefully, adjusting Emma in her arms. "What can I get you?" David asked. "Sandwich? Soup? Both?" Whatever is cheapest," Charlotte said. "I don't want to take advantage." "You're not taking advantage if I'm offering," David interrupted gently. "How about the chicken sandwich with soup? And some hot tea? You look frozen." Charlotte nodded, not trusting her voice. David went to the counter and placed the order, then returned with a glass of water. "Here, drink this while we wait." Emma had calmed down slightly now that they were sitting in the warmth, but she was still fussing. Charlotte opened her bag and pulled out a bottle. She'd prepared earlier, the last of her formula until she could buy more. "How old is she?" David asked as Charlotte began feeding Emma. 6 months, Charlotte said. "Her name is Emma." "She's beautiful," David said, and he seemed to mean it. "You're doing a good job with her." The simple compliment made Charlotte's eyes fill with tears again. "I'm not," she said. "I'm barely managing. I work 3 part-time jobs and I still can't make ends meet. I can barely afford food for myself, let alone her. I'm failing at everything." You're not failing, David said firmly. You're surviving impossible circumstances. There's a difference. The food arrived, a generous chicken sandwich, a bowl of hearty vegetable soup, and a pot of hot tea. Charlotte stared at it, overwhelmed. Eat, David encouraged. Please. Charlotte ate, trying not to wolf down the food even though she was starving. Emma had finished her bottle and was now contentedly drowsy, her head resting against Charlotte's chest. When did you last eat a real meal? David asked quietly. Charlotte thought about it. Yesterday morning. I had oatmeal. David's jaw tightened. And before that? I don't remember. A few days, maybe? I make sure Emma eats. That's what matters. You matter too, David said. If you collapse from malnutrition, who takes care of Emma? Charlotte knew he was right, but the knowledge didn't make her situation any better. I'm trying, she said, her voice breaking. I'm trying so hard. But Emma's father left when I was pregnant. My family disowned me for getting pregnant out of wedlock. I lost my full-time job when the company downsized. And I can't find anything that pays enough to cover rent and childcare, and food and everything else. I'm drowning. David listened, his expression growing more troubled. What do you do for work now? I clean office buildings at night, I work retail on weekends, and I do data entry from home when Emma sleeps. But it's not enough. It's never enough. Charlotte wiped at her eyes. I'm sorry. You don't need to hear all this. You've already been so kind. Don't apologize, David said. Charlotte, it is Charlotte, right? She nodded. Charlotte, I want to help you. Really help you, not just buy you lunch. I don't understand, Charlotte said. David pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. Charlotte picked it up and read, David Morrison, CEO, Morrison Development Group. Her eyes widened. Morrison Development Group was one of the largest real estate development companies in the state. This man wasn't just comfortable, he was wealthy. Very wealthy? You're a CEO? She asked. I am, David confirmed. But before that, I was a single father who struggled to make ends meet. My wife died when our daughter was 3 months old. I was working 2 jobs, trying to finish my business degree at night, barely surviving. A stranger bought me dinner one night when I was at my lowest. And he told me something I've never forgotten. The measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable members. You're vulnerable right now, Charlotte. And I have the means to help, so let me. I don't want charity, Charlotte said, though the words felt hollow even as she said them. It's not charity, it's humanity. David leaned forward. I run a large company. I need good people, people who know what it means to work hard, to struggle, to appreciate what they have. I'm guessing you have skills beyond cleaning offices and working retail. I have a college degree in business administration, Charlotte admitted, but I couldn't finish my last semester because I got pregnant and ran out of money. So I'm 6 credits short of graduating. 6 credits, David repeated. Charlotte, I want to offer you a job. A real job with benefits and decent pay. Something you can build a career on. But first, I want to help you finish your degree. I'll pay for those last 6 credits. Then when you graduate, you come work for me. Charlotte stared at him, certain this couldn't be real. Why would you do this? You don't even know me. I know enough, David said. I know you're trying to buy a single slice of bread to feed yourself while making sure your baby has formula. I know you work 3 jobs. I know you haven't given up even though you have every reason to. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. But what if I fail? Charlotte whispered. What if I can't do the schoolwork with a baby and working and... Then we adjust, David said simply. Charlotte, I'm not offering you a miracle. I'm offering you a chance, a hand up, not a handout. You'll still have to work hard. You'll still have to show up. But you won't have to do it while starving or wondering how you'll feed your daughter. Charlotte looked down at Emma, who had fallen asleep against her chest. She thought about the tiny apartment they lived in, the bills she couldn't pay, the constant gnawing fear that she'd lose everything. And she thought about this stranger who'd told her to sit down and eat first, who'd seen her at her lowest and offered not pity, but opportunity. Okay, she said softly. Okay, yes, thank you. David smiled. Good, finish your lunch. Then let's talk about the details. Over the next hour, David outlined his plan. He'd pay for Charlotte to finish her degree through online classes, which would take about 1 semester. During that time, she'd work part-time as an administrative assistant at Morrison Development Group, with flexible hours that accommodated her school schedule and Emma's needs. The company would provide health insurance for both Charlotte and Emma. Once she graduated, she'd transition to a full-time position in the company's HR department. "We need someone who understands what it's like to struggle," David explained. "Someone who can develop employee support programs with real empathy. I think you'd be perfect for it." "I don't know what to say," Charlotte said. "This is too much." "It's not too much. It's what's right." David paused. "Charlotte, I meant what I said earlier. Someone helped me when I needed it, and that kindness changed my life. It allowed me to finish school, to build my company, to give my daughter a good life. I've been looking for ways to pay that forward, to build something sustainable that helps people in real, meaningful ways. You're the first person I'm helping directly, but you won't be the last." "What do you mean?" Charlotte asked. "I'm starting a foundation," David said. "The Second Chance Foundation. It'll help single parents finish their education and find good jobs. I've been planning it for months, but I needed the right person to help me shape it, someone who understands the challenges from the inside. If you're interested, once you're settled in your job, I'd like you to help me develop the program." Charlotte felt overwhelmed. "You want me to help run a foundation?" "Eventually, yes. But first, let's get you graduated and established. One step at a